Peace and blessing, soul family. Adam Jackson here with another episode of the Sacred Sons podcast. My brothers, it is EMX season. The Embodied Masculine Experience is coming to a region near you. If you know, then you know the Embodied Masculine Experience is our initiatory event. If you are a brother who has been with our community for some time, or if you're just waking up to the opportunity to dive in with the brotherhood, to sit in ceremony, to participate in rituals that will connect you to your purpose, to your power, to your greatness, then head over to sacredsons.com and click on the EMX. Embodied masculinity is what we're talking about, so let's get right into it. And so with that, our guest today, he's an award-winning urologist and a sexual medicine expert. He's a men's health specialist, a clinical researcher, physician educator, and a caring clinician and surgeon. He is also the author of The 21st Century Man. Please welcome Judson Brandeis, MD.
Oh, Adam, it's so great to be here. Your organization is just incredible, and it's just an honor to be on your podcast.
Thank you. And, you know, this book is more like an encyclopedia, The 21st Century Man. I think you called it a world-class buffet that men can kind of drop into for all different types of aspects of relational and physical health. And just like at the core of it, what inspired you to bring this book through?
You know, what inspired me really was working with my patients and talking with my patients about intimacy and sexual function. And really, when you look at sexual function, it's almost like a Maslow's pyramid. You know, that Maslow's pyramid of survival or whatever, you know, what you learn. But for middle-aged men, at the bottom is physical health, then emotional health, then mental health, then relationship health. And at the top of that, if you master all of those things, then in midlife, you know, your sexual health kicks in. Right. And you're able to connect in that way with your partner or your spouse. But if your physical health is bad, or your emotional health is bad, or your mental health, you know, if you're depressed or anxious, or you don't have good work-life balance, or if your relationships are bad, you won't get to that top of the pyramid. And so really, you know, most men's health books are written about food, sex, and exercise. Right. But we're not cavemen. You know, we go beyond food, sex, and exercise. My book, it has amazing chapters on mental health written by, you know, world experts, and relationship health, and health insurance, and lifestyle, you know, things in life that are fun. I mean, we have a great chapter written by Joe Starkey, who used to be the play-by-play guy for the 49ers, on how sports brings men together. And chapters written by a good friend of mine, Brad Robinson, who's a world-class DJ, on how music brings people joy and brings people together.
Yeah, and I was saying earlier, I love that you have a chapter called Making Life Fun, because for a lot of men, it's about like losing that sense of play and wonder for life. So we're going to drop into all of these things today. But before we do, I'm going to invite us to take a deep breath for ourselves. Scanning to the body, coming into awareness of this present moment, this beautiful day. Judson, what is most alive within you?
Oh, you know, every day I wake up and I make coffee for my wife, and I make breakfast for my kids. And every day is filled with new possibilities and potential and adventures. And it's, you know, every day there's something bad that happens, but hopefully every day there's some good things that happen. And that's what keeps you going.
Yeah, I love that. I love the simplicity and the wisdom in that. I'll go ahead and piggyback. Adam checking in. Yeah, since I said that word wonder, really feeling into the awe, AWE, the awe of life, and to be in awe. And right now, spring has sprung. There's a bunch of wildflowers out where I am in Hamul, California, the high desert, and just to be in awe of nature and allow that to inspire me on the daily. Like, that's a good practice We can all get caught up in our routines, but taking a moment to take a deep breath in, to look at the beauty does wonders for the soul. You know what I mean? For the spiritual health, but and the physical health. And so with that, I am in, and I'm gonna bring it back, right back to the urologist in you. What is preventing man? And I'm telling you, there's going to be a whole new slew of millennials that are not getting their prostate checked, that are letting their health go. What's in the way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the guys that I see, so most of my patients are, late 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're really good guys. Men have kind of taken a beating lately from all these like Epstein and Weinstein and, all these people that really give men a bad name. But most of the guys that I see are really, really good guys that take care of their families, take care of their jobs, take care of their communities, and they don't take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And they teach other people, like, I'm strong, I can take care of myself, you don't need to take care of me. And then they break down, whether it's, their hormone levels plummet, or they lose muscle, or they get fat, or they lose their erectile function, and they come in and they see me, and I have to help them turn their life around, which, I'm really well trained to do. But if they practiced prevention and early intervention for these disease processes, and they could recognize the signs that things weren't going the way that they should, it would be another 10 or 15 or 20 years before they would need my services. And so really that's what I hope that men learn and focus on. And that's what the 21st century man is all about, is prevention and early intervention. 100 years ago, women lived 1 year longer than men. Now women live 5 years longer than men.
What do you think the source or the root cause of that would be?
Yeah, well, men don't take care of themselves, right? So men are half as likely to go to the doctor. Yeah. Men work in much more dangerous occupations. Men live lives that are much more stressful. Men eat foods that they probably shouldn't be eating. They have much higher rates of suicide, much higher rates of alcoholism, much higher rates of smoking, a lot of self-destructive behaviors.
Yeah. And I love also in this book, you have pieces around food and exercise, but also addictions, looking good. Like I said earlier, making life fun. Let's go to looking good. I have a saying I like, which is never lead with your looks. Like, you don't have to rely on your looks, to get by. However, we all know that looking good makes you feel good. And so what specifically, for men in their 40s or guys who are approaching middle age, what is it about looking good for you that felt important to bring in?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting. So women, it's much more sort of like a part of who they are, of how they look. But, guys want to look good too. And there are so many things that are out there that women do that men don't do that will help your appearance. And this day in the workforce, there's a premium on sort of looking younger, looking better. People are on Zoom, you don't want your face to look like a mess. And there's some really simple things that you can do to improve your appearance. And so I wanted to kind of bring that to the consciousness of men, bring that to awareness. And even things like, I shave every day. I wash my hair, but I don't know very much about shaving. I don't know very much about shampoo and conditioner, what's actually in shampoo and conditioner. And so it was really interesting writing some of those chapters, because it was things that I took for granted and I did every day, but I almost knew nothing about.
Yeah. Did you come to a more holistic sense of appearance and products, or, like what was kind of the conclusion, or what are some of the advice that's in the book?
Well, I'm one of the things that really hit me was the amount of damage you can do to your skin from the sun. and the importance of, I always used to blow off
sunscreen,
sunblock, so guys are really interesting. And I generalize but I only see men.
Yeah.
And I've seen thousands and thousands of men as patients. So I'm even though I generalize, I have a pretty good sample size. So when I generalize, I'm pretty accurate. And so you can't just tell a guy what to do, right? You can't just say, put on sunscreen, right? But you can tell them, listen, if you don't put on sunscreen, you put yourself at much, much higher risk of skin cancer, and you put yourself at much, much higher risk of melanoma, which is a deadly form of skin cancer. And you put yourself at much higher risk of, these brown spots, and you put yourself at risk of premature wrinkles. And so when you provide someone with the information of the consequences of not taking care of yourself, then people are like, well, maybe I should just put a little skin cream on. Or one of my favorite things is, I love gardening, right? That's what my wife and I do during the weekend. When you're talking about the wildflowers, we have just incredible wildflowers in our backyard, right? And we do like, heavy duty gardening, not like planting little flowers, but we build retaining walls and do rough carpentry and all that stuff. And I'm always using my Sawzall and my bandsaw. And 90% of eye injuries are preventable by wearing eye protection, right? Yeah. I mean, run that through, and it's in this chapter in the book, Stupid Things That Men Do to Get Themselves Put in the Emergency Room, by a good friend of mine, Malcolm Johnson, who's an emergency room physician. Yeah. And, 90% of eye injuries just by putting some goggles on, but guys are too stubborn. They're like, I'll just take the Sawzall and I'll cut this shit across and, right. Yeah. But
I'm guilty of it. I've actually had an eye injury from a drill press in a silly way, being dumb, not wearing safety glasses.
But that could have taken your eye out.
Yeah. Fortunately,
right?
It didn't. Yeah.
50% of hand injuries are preventable by wearing safety, just gloves.
Yeah. So what you're really deepening into is the fact that men don't take care of themselves.
Yeah. And sometimes it's even a point of pride.
Yeah.
Of doing something, like, I was drinking and we were doing this and we were doing that. And
so there's a piece here though, because there's a part of this that comes back to our biology. And there's something that it is true about a man who takes risks and how that can be appealing for the opposite sex. So do you feel like there's something on a biological level that is encouraging men to take more risks, and in the way you're framing it, to be less prepared for preventable safety injuries?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think you have to ask women how attractive they find men, with broken pelvises or that are blind in one eye, or
right.
It's really interesting. I was in Africa years and years and years ago, and I watched a zebra, right? There's a male zebra and it had a female zebra, and the female zebra was pregnant, right? And I watched for 4 hours other male zebras challenge this male zebra for, basically to court his female zebra. Yeah. And it's, I can understand from an evolutionary perspective how an animal that's sort of willing to take a chance and be super aggressive would be desirable by a female species. But, I think we've gone a little bit beyond that.
Yeah.
At least I hope we've gone a little bit beyond that. And so, you don't have to jump your motorcycle, off the roof of a house to attract your spouse.
Yet here we are in the 21st century. I saw a guy doing a wheelie on the Interstate 5 recently on a motorcycle, just going down the interstate doing a wheelie. So there's some truth that to the fact that maybe we haven't evolved.
Yeah, but was the USC cheerleading bus following him down the 5? or where there are
Right.
people looking at him going, that guy's just nuts. What the hell is he doing? So, I think that's a great question for
Right.
a female guest. Do you find risky behaviors in men attractive? I'd love to hear the answer to that question.
Yeah. So let's, like, going back in though. Okay, we got looking good. Let's talk a little bit about exercise. I feel like culturally it's coming more and more online, like exercise, fitness, functional patterns, CrossFit, new ways of training are becoming more popularized. However, when you walk down the street, like a local American town, you see a lot of obesity.
Yeah.
So
That's a really, really interesting you say that. So 40% of men right now are fat or obese.
yeah.
By the end of the decade, it's going to be 50%. So, I deal with the 99% of men who fall into the regular old guy category.
Yeah.
And then I also deal with the 1%ers who are, the CrossFitters and the people that are sort of not elite athletes, but, are really in really, really good shape. And I have a lot of things to offer to them too, because I do a lot of physical rejuvenation, and I have, I'm representing technologies that take guys to the kind of the next level.
Yeah.
And, but, to deal with the 99% of folks, I mean, a lot of people are overweight and they don't understand why they're overweight. And the important thing to understand is, what is fat? The book really talks about things from a really macro perspective. What is fat, right? Fat is a storage form of energy, right? And fat is critically important. You ever see the TV show Naked and Afraid?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite TV shows. You can learn so much from that show, right? How many pounds you see these people put on in the course of a show? None. They lose like 25 pounds, right?
Yeah.
How come they're not eating 3 meals a day? Because you got to kill your dinner, right? And it's hard. The stuff, animals aren't sitting around going, kill me, and I'll taste good. You got to kill your dinner, and then most of that is protein, right? There's not a lot of fat in animals, so any calories that are extra that your body keeps gets turned into fat, which is a storage form of energy, right? If you ever been up to Alaska and watched the whales in Alaska, the humpback whales eat 23 hours a day for 5 months. And then they swim from Alaska to Hawaii, have their babies, feed their babies, and the mama and the baby swim back to Alaska, right? So a round trip is about 6,000 miles. They don't eat for 7 months. They subsist entirely on blubber, right? That's the importance of fat. That's why it's hard to lose fat. That's why your body holds on to fat, right? So you got to understand that before you even think about losing weight or why am I getting fat, you got to understand your body wants to keep calories. We didn't evolve in a world where you can pick up your cell phone, call Grubhub, and have them send a burrito to you, right? You had to go out and
midnight.
You had to go out and kill something and eat it in order to eat. And so that's why we're all fat, is because
so we're certainly overeating as a culture. We know that. And so is there like a suggested diet? I'm a believer that there's not one diet that's suitable for everyone. However, there are some kind of like guidelines that everyone can benefit from. So what would those be?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So, I have a very sophisticated body composition analysis machine in my office, and it gives me a very accurate basal metabolic rate. So really, in order to lose weight, you need to know 4 things, right? So it's like when you save money, you need to know 2 things, right? How much money are you making? How much money are you spending, right? So first of all, if you want to lose weight, you have to count calories. If you don't count calories, don't even tell people that you're losing weight, because you're not. Okay. Second of all, you need to know what your basal metabolic rate is, right? And you can compute it based on your height and weight, but it's much more accurate if you can get to a place that has a body composition machine. If anyone is in Northern California, just come into my office, Brandeis MD. I'm in San Ramon. you can get a free body composition, right? And it will tell you, mine tells you your left arm muscle, your right arm muscle, your trunk, your left leg, your right leg, your fat percentage body fat, all that kind of stuff. But it also tells you your basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of calories that you burn in a day at rest, right? And then there are two other things you need to know. First of all, when you exercise, in round numbers, you burn about 500 calories an hour, right? The certain exercises are more, certain exercises are less, but I like to deal with simple math, 500 calories an hour, okay? And then 1 pound of human fat is 3,500 calories, okay? Yeah. So if you divide that by 7, it's 500. So if you want to lose a pound of fat a week, which is not that much, right? Then you have to drop 500 calories from your basal metabolic rate a week. And then if you exercise in a day, you can add those calories on to eat. So say your BMR is 2,000, right? So then you should be eating 1,500 calories a day. And then if you exercise a half an hour, you can get up to 1,750, right? That's not a lot of calories. And then your calories should be mostly protein. So take your weight, divide it by 2. So if you're 200 pounds, you should be eating 100 grams of protein a day, right? 200 divided by 2 is 100 times grams of protein, right? And then you can eat animal protein, you can eat plant protein. When you get down to that level, like I'm not at that level. One of my patients the other day asked me like, well, is a buffalo protein better than beef? I'm like, I don't know, who am I? I'm just a urologist.
Certainly you probably have a preference of organic and grass-fed beef over McDonald's.
Yeah. I mean, McDonald's, the protein content of it's really interesting. I looked at an article the other day that looked at the nutritional content of fruits and vegetables. And God, we're blessed to be in California because the nutritional content of, a cucumber in California is actually much better than the nutritional content of a cucumber in New York. And the reason for that is, like a patient of mine the other day, he's the top grower, the only grower of asparagus in the United States. All of the other asparagus is grown in Mexico. And he brought me from Turlock, California, this box of asparagus, which is just like amazing. It's like eating steak. It's incredible, right? But the nutritional content of that asparagus is going to be through the roof. By the time it gets to, Athens, Georgia, or Minnesota, it's not going to, because it sits in cold rooms and it's get trucked around, it's not going to be the same nutritional content. And so by the time food gets to McDonald's, the nutritional content of that food is going to be really, really watered down.
Yeah. So I understand you're coming from the basic calories in, calories out, high protein diet. What do you think of ketogenic diets, carnivore diets, like different kind of fads that are out there? I have personal experience with keto that it works really well, really quickly. It's very hard to sustain long term.
I think that's the key. I think that I have like a whole 12-step program that I write out. And so I have high protein, low carb, high micronutrient, high fiber, and healthy fats. And I tell patients, these are the healthy fats that you should eat. And then I tell patients, you can do whatever you want. You can eat meat, you can not eat meat, you can be pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan, whatever you want, as long as you abide by those principles and you like what you eat. If you don't like what you eat, then you're going to quit your diet. Like no diet has ever been shown that I know of to be better than any other diet. It's all about, are you willing to stick to the diet? And sticking is the key, right? Because I got a guy the other day, right? He's got to lose 50 pounds. And I told him, I said, if you do everything right, this is going to take you 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year.
To lose 50 pounds. That's good. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, but if you do everything perfectly, it's going to take you 1 year. So don't expect The thing is, people do these crash diets and they lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks and they think that they've done something. But guess what? You got 120 pounds of water in your body. That's also what comes out on these body composition analysis. How much water do you have in your body, right? So you dehydrate yourself 10%, you lose 12 pounds. You're like, wow, that's great. Then you have potato chips and you put the 12 pounds back on.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to educate people. You have to set their expectations properly. And then you have to motivate them. And I tell people, like, listen, I'm going to give you the best program that I think anyone in the country can. My results are just astonishing because some of the technologies that I have in my office, it's just astonishing.
Can you speak to some of those results?
It's very typical for me to have 60-year-olds put on 5 to 8 pounds of new muscle while they're losing anywhere from 10 to 20 pounds in about 4 to 5 months.
Nice. And so come from the 60-year-old, speak to some of the 30 and 40-year-old men. What should they be doing right now to put themselves in a better situation so they don't end up on your doorstep at 50?
I think what I say to 30 and 40-year-old men, especially 30-year-old guys and 20-year-old guys, is you can get away with it now. You can go and drink all night and party and wake up the next morning and go to work and function. I remember when I was a resident, we were working like dogs, right? And then the night out, we'd go out and we'd drink and out to 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was at UCLA, and then we'd show up for work the next day and we'd function.
Yeah.
Right. But you'll get to a point where you can't do that anymore. And then your future you will be like looking at your past you going, dude, you really messed me up.
Yeah.
Why did you do all that stuff back in the day? Because now my testosterone sucks. I can't get it up. I'm fat. I lost muscle. And maybe I had a baby out of wedlock, or who knows, so the 20 and 30-year-olds can get away with it. You can, but you're going to live with the consequences of those decisions 20 years from now, or 15 years from now, or 25 years from now. And so, it's really making, the first chapter in the book is the hero's journey.
Yes.
It's all about making heroic decisions for yourself. If you really see yourself as the hero of your own life's journey, we all look out to, Tiger Woods is my hero, or Michael Jordan is my hero, or, whatever. But those people, they got their own problems. Seriously,
yeah, for sure they do. And
yeah, focus on your problems. Like I tell my patients, I'm like, I just gave you a world-class plan.
Yeah.
But don't expect me to go home. I'm not your mother. I got my own problems, right? I got a wife. I got 4 kids. I got 3 businesses. There's not a day that goes by that something crazy doesn't pop up in my life that I have to deal with. I don't have time to deal with your problems. You got to deal with your problems.
Yeah. So just rounding out the food and exercise, I've also often heard like diet is 90% of it, and exercise is like 10% of it. But going hard with exercise, you can really sculpt your body. Is that kind of how?
Well, think about it this way. I always think like I could just, and I've been fortunate. I was a triathlete when I was younger, and I ran competitively in college, and so I've never really had an issue with weight. And for me, exercise is like fun. That's what I do for fun. Like I can't think of anything that I enjoy doing more than working out with my kids. And so it's never really been a problem for me, but it has to be part of people's lifestyles. And if you think about 500 calories an hour, you can either eat a giant burrito from Chipotle, which is 2,000 calories, but then you have to work out for 4 hours to burn off one giant burrito. It's like you can easily out eat your exercise routine. And then the other thing is the hormone levels, right? Testosterone. You know, there are all these people on TV now complaining that men's testosterone levels are low and we should do scrotal tanning. That was the thing.
Get your testes in the sun.
Yeah, which actually I own the patent on infrared tanning for the testicle to produce testosterone.
Do you have a device?
We're working on a device, but it's a lot more complicated than people really haven't thought it through very well. But we're working
not holding
on
your cell phone in your pocket next.
Well,
to
the
your
other
balls.
thing, people forget that testicle does two things, right?
Yeah,
it makes testosterone, but it produces sperm. Right. And why are your testicles below the body? Because sperm production takes place at 97.1 degrees and your body temperature is 98.6 degrees. So if you're tanning your scrotum and the temperature starts to rise, you're cooking your sperm. And if you cook your sperm, they don't swim very fast. They don't look very good and you don't make very many of them. So
that's interesting. So you think that's bad advice to do that? Or kind of like
we're doing the research. Yeah. I don't guess. I just do research. If there's a question out there that I go and look at Medline and see if anyone's done the research. And if no one's done the research, then I do the research. So we're doing the research on near infrared light on certain wavelengths for improving testosterone, but also we're going to check temperature. Yeah, we're going to check semen analysis to make sure we're not frying people's sperms.
Cool. I'm hesitant to say this, but anus tanning is another one of them. That's popular as well. Get your butt holes in the sun, boys.
The truth is always stranger than fiction.
What do you think about that one?
No. Like as a urologist, I don't drink anymore. But man, if you got me going at a party like 15, 20 years ago, I had some stories that would just like, and the thing is, you can't make up the stuff that people do.
Yeah. Coffee enemas. How about coffee enemas? You ever come across these?
I don't know. I drink coffee. Coffee is meant to go in this way, not the other way.
All right, we'll come out of these pieces. Let's talk about, since we're talking about coffee, let's talk about addictions. Let's move into this realm. In the work that we do as Sacred Sons, we do physical and relational workshops and training. And a lot of pieces that come up for men are around addictions. And I don't think there is a getting rid of the addictive tendencies that human beings have, but there is an option to shift what we're addicted to. Like you just explained how you have made playing with your kids and being physical fun. And some people get addicted to running, for example. But what's your take on addictions, and specifically for men? Why are so many men addicted in the 21st century?
Yeah, that's a great question. And honestly, I'm not an expert in addictions, but I do focus in the book. I wrote the chapter on alcohol. I looked for experts on addiction, and I talked to 6 or 7 of them, to be perfectly honest with you. And I wrote the book during COVID, so I think a lot of them were super busy during COVID, and I couldn't. The only one that I got to someone else to write was on smoking. And I got the folks at quit.app to write a chapter on smoking. But, alcohol is 4 things. Okay. First of all, alcohol is ingrained in our life in almost every country. But in the United States, when you grow up, you drink beer, you go to the game, you drink beer, whatever. And then, when you're a little bit older and you're a little bit more civilized and you have a spouse or whatever, you go and you drink wine, you go to wine parties and vineyards and whatever. And then you get older and you hang out with your buddies and drink whiskey and complain about, the young whippersnappers and the good old days. Right. Okay. So that's alcohol's sort of, we've been convinced by really, really sophisticated marketing people that we should be drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
Just understand that we've been conned into thinking that alcohol is an important part of life. Okay. But now let me give you the other three things. Alcohol is a depressant. Okay. That's the class of drugs that alcohol is in. It's a depressant. Okay. Makes you sad. Second of all, alcohol disinhibits you, right? It makes you do stupid stuff, right? It detaches you from your cerebral cortex so that the logic part of your brain doesn't participate in the decisions that you make when you're under the influence of alcohol. And every time when someone's in my office and I say, it makes you do stupid stuff, people just kind of shake their head, right? A huge percentage of domestic abuse, a huge percentage of stupid things that we say to people that we don't really mean or we never meant to say, a huge percentage of driving their car into people or brick walls or whatever are done under the influence of alcohol. That's indisputable.
And it's not only have we been conned by the marketing, but we've been conned by the legal system and thinking that legality makes something less harmful, less destructive, less impactful. And so it's like a combination of those two worlds making it okay. And then I've also heard like alcohol addiction is one of the ones when quitting can actually kill you. I mean, like this is one of the harder things to undo.
Oh yeah. And then the third thing is it's empty calories. So it makes you fat.
Wow.
So, do you want to be sad, stupid, and fat? And poor, right? Because it's not inexpensive. Or do you not want to be those things? I stopped drinking about 10 years ago because my wife and I knew our kids were going to be heading towards teenage years and we just didn't want to have it around the house. Yeah. Because I asked kids, because back, I'm 54. So back in those days, you just, you got a ID and you just change the date on the ID and hand it to the guy at the front door and he let you in. It's not a big deal. But now they're much more sophisticated in terms of, letting people in clubs and so on and so forth. And so I asked kids, where do you get alcohol from? And they're like, oh yeah, we just get it from our parents' liquor cabinet.
Exactly.
And so we just don't have a liquor cabinet. Our kid, and so knock on wood, I hope our kids don't drink.
So, but abstinence from substances is never going to be a reality. This is a part of human nature as well. All cultures have substances that change your consciousness. And so I'm with you. I feel like alcohol is one of the most detrimental to society. But what do you feel in terms of I kind of like how kind of like deadpan and dry you are with it. Just like, do you want this or not?
Well, it's true. There are consequences.
But so many people are choosing it. So many men are choosing it to suppress.
Yeah. I mean, I did a podcast the other day with like, this really highly educated, I'm trying to remember who it was, but, and he talked about like, he had a really, really bad day and he drank a bottle of wine, but he doesn't drink that, a whole bottle of wine, but he usually doesn't drink that much. And, like, was that the right thing to do or not? And I was like, well, do you have a punching bag? He's like, yeah, I do. I said, well, I would have just gone out and I would have really just half an hour, I would have just assaulted that punching bag. Yes. And at the end of the hour, my stress would have been gone and I would have gotten one hell of a workout.
There you go. So let's talk about like transmuting unhealthy addictions into healthy addictions. What kind of perspective?
I mean, I'd much rather be addicted to running or hitting a punching bag than to alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so, it's, I agree with you that alcohol is a really it's a really pervasive part of life, but abstinence from alcohol, I don't think is not unattainable. You know, I mean,
agree. Yeah.
a lot of people smoke, but I mean, a lot of people don't smoke. You know, but you know, you have to kind of find a different group of people to hang with.
Yeah.
You know, if you're
I
going to
think
go
it's a
to the
bigger part
bar,
of it. Yeah.
if you're going to go to the bar, like I do a lot of speaking for different companies whose products I really like. And, you know, this one company, BTL, who makes these incredible products for muscle building called M-Sculpt and M-Cella, which builds muscle 10 to 15 times faster. That's how I can build so much muscle in these guys in their 60s as I get them on the M-Sculpt machine. But they have these great parties and everyone's drinking, and they have this incredible band with like old members of like Firehouse and Soundgarden. I mean, it's a really cool band. And I just don't drink. You know, like I can have a really good time and sing along with the music and jump around and dance around. And I just don't drink, you know, and people look at me funny. And a lot of them people come up and say, you know, like, that's really cool that, you know, you can hang out and act like an idiot and not drink. And I was like, yeah, you know, that I love the music, and, you know, the music really moves me, and I have a great time. But I don't drink. And yes, I like the taste of beer sometimes. You know, when I have sushi, I like to have beer, but they're non-alcoholic beers like St. Pauli's Girl and Caliber and O'Doul's, and I'll just have that.
Yeah. You know, just coming back to kind of the deadpanness around it. I believe it's possible, but someone has to be willing. Someone has to be inspired.
Yeah.
And so your inspiration is coming from physical health down the line. Like is it a particular suffering, just the loss of years? What's your perspective on the why? Like give someone the why. Why should you put down the bottle today?
Because people make dumb decisions when they drink. They really do. Yeah. And those decisions have really incredible consequences. I mean, I have a friend who killed someone, you know, in a car, and he was, you know, just around the legal limit, and just was driving his car in front of the bar, and he hit someone, and that person died. Right? I mean, you got to live with that for the rest of your life. I had a patient, you know, a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking about, you know, disinhibition and doing something stupid, and he started to tear up, and he kind of pointed to the side of his face, and he had this big gash on the side of his face, like 3.5 inches. He was an African-American guy, so it was like a little harder to see. But when he pointed it out, yeah, it was obvious. And he said, yeah, that was under the influence of alcohol. He got into a bar fight, and someone right across his face with a beer bottle. So, you know, even you know, there was that horrible case where that Stanford swimmer raped that girl. And the Stanford swimmer was like, oh, I was drunk. But the girl, and I'm not blaming her, but she was passed out on the ground because she was dead drunk. Right. You put yourself in a super vulnerable position when you're under the influence. And so, I don't know, you know, when we're young, we think we were invincible. We think that there's nothing bad that's going to happen to us. But it can. And I see so many men that come into my office that are 30 years out from a car accident or something really significant that happened when they were under the influence of alcohol that they're still living with. And so, you know, it's the same thing like putting eye goggles on. You know, I mean, you could have lost your eye easily. And then you would have been walking around with one eye. You would have lost your depth of field. You wouldn't have been as good a driver. And it was just because you made a silly decision.
Yeah, a careless decision.
Yeah, a careless decision. I mean, the thing is, you know, humanity has kind of lost the consequences of our behaviors to a certain extent.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's still there's still consequences that occur from bad, from careless behaviors.
Yeah.
And alcohol makes you more careless. That's just the way it is.
And so as 21st century men, as conscious men, it's our responsibility to make better decisions.
Yeah.
We all have to do that for ourselves. We have to really fully take on the responsibility and say, you know what, this isn't serving me or my family or my community. In fact, it's detrimental. And so really taking stock of the impact of our decisions.
Yeah. Your decisions have consequences for you. And if you're a hero, are you going to drink and get into a car? If you're a hero, are you going to drink and then badmouth your girlfriend, or cheat on your girlfriend, or if you're a hero, are you going to drink and then hit your kids? Because if you're sober, you're not going to hit your kids. Yeah. If you're sober, you're not going to say some horrible things that you'll regret for the rest of your life to your
and when spouse. I hear these stories, one of the first things I ask, was alcohol involved?
Yeah. What percentage of the time?
Yes. It's typically a yes.
Yeah. So, it's a free country. People can do what they want. And these days you can do even more than you're not getting in trouble for almost anything these days.
And so in your research, and I'm saying you're a men's health expert, did you come into contact with aspects that get men back in touch with their purpose? Because what I find is that when men have a purpose, a mission, something that they can really devote themselves to, even if that's taking care of their family, you know what I mean? But when they have a purpose, they're less destructive. They're less likely to have, negative or bad consequential impact on others. And so what are the aspects of the work that you do that helps men tap back?
Yeah. So my patient population is a lot different, I think, than the folks that you work with. Sure. The work that you do is really incredible. The guys that I see, especially I'm in the Bay Area and I'm close to like Apple and Google and Facebook and Oracle and Lawrence Livermore Labs. A lot of my guys really are professionally driven.
Yeah.
And they lose sight of them taking care of themselves, and they put weight on and their testosterone's low, and they get erectile dysfunction, and they've forgotten to take care of themselves in pursuit of professional accomplishments. But at the end of the day, your customers don't come to your funeral. Your accountant, your lawyer don't come to your funeral. And so they lose track of sort of the really important things in life. There's a study called the Harvard Longevity Study. It's the most important study of men ever done. And they followed men. Half of them went to Harvard and half of them grew up in the inner city in Boston. And they followed them now for 75 years, and they followed their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' kids' kids, and they followed their health and their happiness and their relationships and all that kind of stuff. And the most important thing that they found, the number one cause of happy and healthy life, it's not whether you take aspirin, it's not a heart scan, it's not a full body CAT scan, or it's the quality of your relationships.
Yes.
Right. Numero uno.
Yes.
And so that's another factor that you really need to consider. And that's the beauty of the 21st century man, is it's not like a book that's written about food, exercise, and sex like most men's health books, right? We're not cavemen, right? It's got sections, really, really beautifully written sections on mental health and relationship health, fatherhood, work-life balance, all these really critically important things for living a really full and fulfilling life.
Yeah. And one of those things which you are an expert in is sexual health, sexual healing, and sexual medicine. Can you speak a little to how that became a part of your focus as an MD, but also why that's important for 21st century men?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to me, sexual health and sexual connection is one of the pinnacles of being an adult. When you're 20s, you kind of take it for granted, like everything works great. But in your 50s and 60s, it's sort of like that Maslow's pyramid, right? At the bottom, for men in their 50s and 60s and 70s, it's physical health, emotional health, mental health, relationship health. And when you get all those things locked in, then you're up in the sexual health. And so it's important to take care of all those aspects before you get up to sexual health. But the other thing is, the penis is really a good indicator of overall health, right? So when you're in, when you're 20s, you wake up every morning with an erection, right? Take it for granted. But sometime in your 30s or 40s or 50s, you stop getting morning erections. How come? Right? It's because your circulatory system isn't working as well as it was working 20 years ago, right? That should be your first clue that you're not as healthy as you were 15, 20 years ago. And then 10 years after that happens, guess what? You'll be with your partner and things won't work as well as they. So if you go to your doctor, or if you go on Get Roman or Hims or whatever, and you just order a bunch of Viagra and you just take it, you're missing a gigantic opportunity, right? Hello, there's something wrong with your circulation, right? And if you ignore that, guess what happens 10 years later? You have a heart attack.
Yep.
Right? If you had acknowledged that your circulation was not what it should have been 10 years before, and you had started exercising and eating better and taking an aspirin and maybe taking a statin medication and stop smoking, stop drinking so heavily, reduce the stress in your life, you wouldn't be having a heart attack, right? And when you have a heart attack, or when you, like, for example, 25%, these are just statistics, right? 25% of men, the first symptom of heart disease is death, right? Death, right? Like
that's the first symptom.
That's not recoverable.
Right.
That's the message that I'm trying to send, is that a quarter of the time, the first symptom is game over. You don't have any more quarters.
Yeah.
Right. So you should have listened 10 years ago when your penis was telling you, it was like begging you. Your penis was like, yo, dude, I'm not working. Something is wrong. And then 10 years later, the next thing that happens is you die.
Shit. Yeah.
Right. But if 10 years before you're like, let's not go to Get Roman. Let's go to our doctor. And I order a ton of what's called heart calcium scans. It's a couple $100, the best couple $100 you ever spent. It's just a CAT scan of your heart. It takes like literally 1 minute, and it gives you a score. And it says you got a lot of calcification in your heart, or you got no calcification in your heart. You got no calcification in your heart, you're good. Keep doing what you're doing. But if you have calcification in your heart, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to help you so that you don't either end up dead or with your chest cracked open.
Yeah. And then is the opposite true? If you're in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and your morning wood's coming in strong and everything is working, that's a good indicator.
Yeah, that's a good sign that things are good. But the thing is, right, the arteries to the heart are 3 to 4 millimeters. The arteries to the penis are 1 to 2 millimeters. Yeah. Right. And that's pi r squared. So the arteries to the heart are 4 times the size of the arteries to the penis. Right. So what's going to get clogged first? Arteries to the penis. Yeah. Right. And the other thing is, like, right, the arteries to the toes are about the same size as the arteries to the penis. Right. But when the circulation to the toes decreases, what happens? You get cold feet. Right. Your feet don't stop working. You don't see people like falling over because their feet aren't working. They just put socks on. Right. But the penis is different. You got to get a high enough blood pressure in the penis in order for the penis to work, right? It's like you got to get a blood pressure of like 100. If you get 95, things aren't working. So it's like being on the top of a burning building, right? If the next building is 6 feet away, if you jump 6 feet, you're in good shape. If you jump 5 feet, it's a long way down. So if you get a pressure of 101 in your penis, it's a good night. If you get a pressure of 95, it's going to be a miserable, frustrating night. And so that's what, in my office in Northern California, I'm really focused on helping guys achieve better blood pressures in the penis. And so there are a number of different ways that we do that. I have a supplement called Affirm, which is a nitric oxide boosting supplement. It's a natural way for you to improve circulation. So, circulation is improved by nitric oxide, which is the second messenger that nerves release onto blood vessels. And it opens up blood vessels. It helps with blood pressure. It helps with athletic performance. Most elite endurance athletes take nitric oxide boosters. Most bodybuilders take nitric oxide boosters. It helps with cognition because it helps with brain blood flow. And then we also put a lot of people on what we call PDE5 inhibitors, right? So things like Viagra, Cialis, Levitra, and those are specific to an enzyme called the PDE5 enzyme, which is in the penis. So when I was at UCLA, my professors kind of figured out all this stuff and won Nobel Prizes and published famous articles. So I was very kind of much in touch with all that. And then, but that's just the signal. Now you need the pipes, right? You need the arteries to be working. And if the arteries get clogged, there are things that we can do like low intensity shockwave therapy or something called Gainswave, which stimulates the growth of new blood vessels. I'm pioneering the use of what's called PRP, platelet-rich plasma, to help regrow blood vessels, even exosomes, which are called from stem cells. We use those to boost blood flow to the penis. So we have all sorts of, and I'm doing a bunch of research on high intensity focused electromagnetic waves and all sorts of other cool stuff to regenerate a guy's ability to get an erection.
Yeah. So before it gets to that point, are there natural, holistic ways of maintaining the circulation? You know what I'm saying? So
work out.
So we're talking about it. Work out, eat well. I love the idea of using your penis as an indicator of health. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. If it's down, it's bad. And if it's up, it's good. It's like, there's a great on-off switch.
Yeah. But I would imagine so many guys, for whatever reason, are too embarrassed or too scared or just don't want to spend the time to go to the doctor and sort it out.
Yeah. So like, like say your dad, I don't know your dad, but say you had a dad and your dad was having some heart issues and you were at work, in your little cubicle at the office, and you had to take your dad to the cardiologist, and you're like, hey guys, you do mind? I got to take my dad to the cardiologist because he's got a heart problem. And everyone would be like, oh, that's so nice. You're such a wonderful son. And then the next day you show up and you're like, yeah, guys, I got to take my dad to the urologist. He's having erectile dysfunction. It's hard for him to have sex with my mom.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that people would be like, oh, that's so nice. You really care about the sexual, but you know what? It's the same underlying pathophysiology. It's all circulation. That's all it is. It's just plumbing, just blood to the heart, blood to the penis.
It's all circulation. I love that. I love that piece. And with that, with all of the work that we do, with the healing, with the relational and physical work that we do, with the purpose-driven work that we do, it's like you got to be alive to fulfill the mission, to fulfill the purpose. You have to be in good health. You have to be around. That's one of my missions. I never met either of my grandfathers. They both died before I was, of age, right? And so you have a chapter in your book, Leaving a Legacy.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean to you for a man to leave a legacy? Why is that important?
I mean, I personally, I've been incredibly blessed. I had great parents. I've gone to incredible educational opportunities. I've had really incredible mentors. I mean, I worked for the guy that figured out how to freeze blood. I worked for the group that figured out how to do the first living-related kidney transplant.
Wow.
I mean, I've really just been blessed to be in really great places, right? And so, I could just take that and enrich myself and go play golf and do whatever the heck. But I feel like I have an obligation to take what I've been given and help other people with it. And the people that I see that really, really need help badly, and I'm sort of uniquely qualified to help, are men, especially men in middle age and older. And that's my mission, is to help men live healthier, happier, better lives.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's your mission, it's your service work. And that's also fulfilling. That's also good for the heart. It's also good for the circulation to be of service. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, I remember I read a story about Mother Teresa. Someone came to Mother Teresa and said, "Oh, how can I help? Things are really bad here in Calcutta. What can I do to help you?" And she looked at him and said, "Go find your own Calcutta." Right. So my Calcutta is middle-aged men. We need help. We're dying younger and younger. I mean, let that sink in. Men are dying at a younger age than they did 15, 20 years ago, right? And it's because of alcohol, opioids, and suicide, right? That is a true fact in the United States. Our longevity is decreasing, right? We have all this knowledge, all these medicines, surgical robots, computers, access to information, and we're dying younger, right? There's a big, big problem for men.
It's a huge problem.
God bless you for the work that you do, really.
I was going to say the same to you. Thank you for the work that you're doing and by shifting all the acquired knowledge and the applied wisdom that you have to help these men survive, because it's important for not only our individual lives and families, but our communities and our culture at large. Do we want to continue down these same paths? So,
oh yeah, absolutely.
We're really grinding on the emotional, mental health, as well as physical health, and getting brothers tap back into their purpose. And when they need to see you, we'll send them your way.
I appreciate it.
Is there anything that you would like to leave with the brothers and sisters who may be listening?
Yeah, I mean, just be the hero of your own journey. Don't look at other people as heroes. Be a hero, and make the decisions that you make about your life, make those as heroic decisions, and everything's going to work out just fine, because almost everything that you need to do to take care of yourself is free. If you don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, exercise, eat healthy foods, which are cheaper than bad foods, don't buy alcohol, meditate, be nice to other people, things will work out just fine for you.
Be the hero of your own journey, and everything's going to be all right. Judson Brandeis, MD. Grab the book, The 21st Century Man, Sacred Sons. I'm recommending it. I got it right here.
All right.
Judson was nice enough to ship me one. It's amazing. Yeah, it's a real encyclopedia to kind of just go through what are the ailments, what are the things I want to focus in on in this book. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful composition with advice from over 50 top doctors and men's health experts. With that, Judson Brandeis, MD, Adam Jackson, Sacred Sons. We're out, family. Peace.